Progress.
Okay, so we'll do a little bit skipping around in the Sicha. Hascholos Parsha Seinuhi. First of all, we'll give some the first paragraph and then skip over to base. The beginning of our parsha is Vayakhel Moshe has called us Bnei Yisrael, that Moshe gathered and collected the entire congregation of the Bnei Yisrael. Vayomer Aleim, and he told them, Eila Advarim Hashetziva Hashem La'asoi Oisam, that these are the things that Hashem commanded to do them. Sheishis Yom Te'osa Melacha. Very important to know the nikud over here. 6 days work shall be done. Ubayom Hashvi Yeh Lachem Kodesh. In the 7th day will be to you holy. Shabbos Shabbosin v'Gomer, a Shabbos of Shabbosin. Let's skip over to the second column, third paragraph, where it begins in Ois Beis. Advarim Yuvnum, the matters that he discussed in between, and a few different details, will be understood. La'achrei Askaras Divrei Chazal, after mentioning the words of the Chazal, Bekeshel Adia Kaloshin, concerning the exact type of language that's used over here in this pasuk. It says, Te'ose, the word that says, Sheishis Yamim Te'ose Melacha. Te'asa, the taf, is with tzruya, with a tzeri under it, and ayin, the ayin is kumutza with a kametz under it. V'loi ta'asa, not the way usually we would say you should do work. That would be that the taf and the ayin psuchas, they both have a pasuk under it. That's what should have said. Sheishis yamim ta'asa malacha, 6 days you shall do work. It says te'asa, which means work shall be done. Havdol, who the difference between them is pirish te'asa ta'asa b'talfa ayin psuchis. The meaning of the word ta'asa, hu asiya b'mloi tzumas halev. It's doing something with full focus. Ve'ilu pirish te'asa b'taf tzruya, where it says te'asa with a tzeire under the taf, hu asiya shal derech agav. It's a doing that it's as if in passing. It's not focused. Shadavar nasama elav, as if a thing is happening on its own. I'm not focused on doing this thing. In the Mechilta, which is the Tanoim's medrash on it, says on this. Why does it say Tei Asa? So it says Bizman Yisrael Oisim Mitzrayim Shel Mokim, when Yidden are fulfilling the will of their Maker. Their work is accomplished by others, meaning that it's something that is te'asa. It's not you are doing it, it just happens, it just occurs. Zu habrach min hashamayim. The way the Mechilta is talking about a bracha, the way it comes from Hashem, that Hashem gives us a bracha when we do what we're supposed to do, so then our work will be done for us. But despite the fact that the Mechilta explains it as being a bracha and a reward min hashamayim, there is also l'chol davar yesh gam b'chinois kifishu b'avodas ha'adam. Every matter has those levels the way it is in the service of a person. The inyan shall te'asa b'taf tzruya, when it says te'asa with a tzeire under the taf, kifishu b'avodahu, the way it's in a person's service to Hashem. The work and mundane activities that it's incumbent upon a person to do during the 6 days of the week, it has to be done without specific and focused involvement, rather done in such a measure as if the matter is happening on its own. As it says, this is a well-known pasuk the Rebbe brings in regards to this topic. It says the toil of your palms, when you eat it, then you are fortunate and it is good for you. Now, in other Sichos, the Rebbe brings down the continuation of a Maimer Chazal, Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, it's fortunate for you in this world, and it's good for you in the world to come. Meaning that there's a spiritual component to this pasuk. And that's what the Rebbe is going to explain over here, what is the spiritual component? Why is it good for you in the world to come if you are eating the toil of your palms? The meaning of this matter is that the toil of a person for his physical needs, which is the idea of toichal includes all the physical needs of a person, is included in eating. Should only be with the hands and similar external organs, just to use the external part of the person. As opposed to the brain and the heart, mitzvahs has to be immersed and invested in Torah mitzvahs. That's what the pasuk is trying to say. When the way how you're acting is it's the toil of your palms, it's only your hands involved in it. Then it's fortunate for you and good for you. Like we mentioned before, according to corresponding what the Chazal say, it's both good for you in this world, and it's also good for you in the world to come. Why? Because I have kept my mind pristine, my mind and heart are available for Torah mitzvahs. Zugam kavonas te'asa tzruya. This is also the meaning of the word te'asa. Just like the word, the pasuk yigia kapecha means you've kept your mind and heart free for Hashem. So too te'asa, with a tzedei under it, has the same intention. Derech agav, that it's done as if in passing. It's not what the person's focus is. A person is not invested in his business with his intellect and his heart, with his brain and his heart. He's only using his power of action. And also the power of action is used by him only in the necessary amount for making a vessel for Hashem's bracha. In other words, there are two components. One component is divest your mind and heart from it. Your mind and heart should be in more important things. Even when I'm using my action should also be limited. As much action as it's necessary to get the job done, as much action as it's necessary to make a sufficient vessel to contain the bracha of Hashem. No reason to overdo making the vessel, since it's anyway coming from Hashem's bracha. In truth, that Hashem, your God, will bench you in everything that you do. It's not the doing, the activity, the actions that I'm doing, that gives the person his sustenance, but rather it's the bracha of Hashem that gives the parnasa. So why do I need to work? Hashem wanted it that his bracha should have a vessel coming from nature. That's why it's necessary in all that you do. But all it is just a vessel. And since once we realize that it's only a vessel, for this sake, it's only necessary to be the action as it is necessary just for how much you need to be able to make an appropriate vessel. This means, first of all, that a person's brain and heart should at all not be invested in it. B'tachbulos, with the mayim, all types of schemes. Obviously, everything a person does, they're using their mind and their heart to a certain degree. But here we're talking about planning and scheming, and the wheels are constantly turning in his mind. And in addition to divesting his mind and emotions from it, even as much as he's doing, he only does sufficiently so he should be able to have enough of a vessel to be able to contain the bracha of the Eibishter. The truth is, the Rebbe says that to even work in this world, one has to realize that it's not even that is not even appropriate. Even doing work the whole time. Lamita shall daven in truth, top of the second column, lahoisa tzricha liyos, klal liyos mutar sasiyas malach. In truth, doing work even 6 days of the week should not have been permitted. Shekain Shemayim starts on the Molech because it says, behold, the heavens and the earth I fill. Umalek alarts kvoida, and the entire earth is filled with his glory. Kach, for this reason, Shemishum kvoid melech malcham lach makadosh baruch hu, for the glory and honor of the King of Kings Hashem. Loi haisa tzricha liyas muteres asiyas malach. It shouldn't have been permitted doing any work. How come? Someone that's standing in front of the king and they're busy signaling to someone else. So it's considered a very big offense against the king. You're standing in front of the king, you have to be completely bottled, you have to be completely sublimated before the king. So therefore, really, we're in the presence of Hashem 24/7. So since we're in the presence of Hashem 24/7, how am I allowed to do any type of activity? But when it comes to the 6 days of the week, Hashem told us, okay, this 6 days of the week I'm giving you to do it, even though you're in my presence. El Shatoida, not Rishus. Vayrasa, Lasas Malacha, the Torah permitted and directed to do work. Ka'amr, like we said, B'chol Asher Tasa, in everything you do. But that Hashem will give you His bracha and everything that you do. Sheishes Yomim Tavid, that 6 days you shall work. He's going to mention later on that there's a Maimer Chazal that says that just like there's a mitzvah of the 7th day you should rest, there's a mitzvah of Sheishes Yomim Tavid. So Hashem explicitly told us to work during those 6 days of the week. But only as much as necessary to make a vessel for the bracha. L'chein, therefore, b'midah achreich is not Torah rishus. In the amount that's necessary, for that the Torah gave permission. I'll be seidem ezu, but more than what's necessary. Hari noisef al kach shadavar mechech shechosr l'odom za'akor she'ikir hi u'barach havai l'kecha. In addition to the fact that if a person works over the amount that's necessary, to be able to make a keli, so that itself indicates that the person doesn't recognize that the truth is that the bracha is from Hashem. If he would recognize that the bracha is from Hashem, why are you working so hard? You know that even in a little bit work, Hashem can give you the bracha. Like in Ois Hey, the Sichos will explain this very important point, that a person cannot overwork because it indicates a lack of recognition of Hashem's bracha and Hashem running the world. So in addition to that issue, there's another problem with overworking. There's also this idea of standing in front of the king and you're disrespecting the king by being preoccupied in things that have nothing to do with the king. As we said before, Hashem gave us the opportunities to do those things that are necessary for his bracha to reside, but other things, not. Ois Gimel, second paragraph, or third paragraph from the bottom. Al Shalachura, Bilti Muvan. Seemingly, it's not understood. Madua Nikra Adavar Bakasa B'Shem Yigia. Yigia Kapecha. Why is it called in the pasuk toil? The toil of your palms. Especially since we said that this is something that a person is doing completely without his heart and mind. How can we call it toil? Doesn't toil indicate it's something that I invest my energy into and so on? So the Rebbe goes on to explain, the matter will be understood according to what it's known. Avura is someone that's involved in a matter that has in it satisfaction, that gives him satisfaction and enjoyment, and he derives pleasure from that activity. Even if a person invests a lot of energy in it, he doesn't become tired and exhausted from it because he has a lot of satisfaction from it. If a person is involved in something that doesn't supply him any satisfaction, even even when this service is something that's a very small amount. He's not working as hard as the person that has satisfaction from his work, who misayif mizeh, he becomes exhausted from it. A very simple example, the Rebbe a lot of times says that when a person is carrying a load of bricks or a load of stone, he becomes tired. But if a person carries the same weight, but it's in gold or diamonds, so it's a whole different type of experience. He has a lot more energy involved in it. Or you could give an example of a kid versus an adult, and a kid can't wait to get out of school, and he's exhausted when school is over, because many kids, because they don't enjoy necessarily the learning, the homework, etc., etc. But you have a person, the Talmid Chacham, that enjoys sitting and learning. By him, it doesn't tire him out. He's not exhausted from it. It rejuvenates him, and so on. So getting back to the issue about Yegia Kapecha, when a person is toiling and making a living, though he's only using his hands, he's not using his heart and mind. Because he's not using his heart and mind, meaning there's no enjoyment, there's no satisfaction really, so that's why it's considered toil. So too concerning our matter, our topic, Mishum ha'uvdam she'ein loy kol hareves begashmiz, because of the fact that he has no geschmack in the physical work, the physical labor of making a living. He's only doing it because he must do it. He has to do it to be able to make this vessel for Hashem's bracha, but he has no enjoyment in actual work. His mind and his heart are elsewhere. Despite the fact that also this involvement, it's being used for the service of Hashem. To such a degree that his work is considered fulfilling a mitzvah. According to what the Chazal say, it says 6 days you should work, and the 7th day you should rest. So why does it say 6 days you should work? Why doesn't it just say, get straight to the point, after 6 days, every 7th day you should rest? Why does it say 6 days you should work? You should work. The Chazal says, Zum mitzvah sese. It's a positive commandment, meaning with working itself can be done in a way of a mitzvah. Working itself can be done in a way of a higher purpose. But harei im zois tarudu b'shas ma'aseh b'dvarim gashmim. Despite the fact that he's doing it because Hashem wants him to do so, but he's at the time invested in physical matters. But the person's satisfaction is not in such a concealed mitzvah. That's not one of the 613 mitzvahs. It's just a drasha that the Chazal say, it's a mitzvah sase, and so on, but it's not the real deal. Therefore, the involvement in the physical is something that takes a lot of strength and energy. So therefore, because of that he's doing it, like he's coercing himself to do it, even this small amount of work, it's only the power of action, and without any type of effort and energy, but only in a way of done, like we said, as if, he's not interested, just it's happening automatically. It makes him extremely exhausted. He has no interest in the work on its own. And he's waiting for the moment when he could finish this business that he's involved in, and to devote himself to Torah mitzvahs. So now, the Rebbe is going to explain another aspect in this pasuk that in one of the earlier questions in the beginning of the Sichos that we skipped over is on the expression that he uses, Shabbos Shabbosin. He says, this is therefore the meaning of the pasuk. 6 days work shall be done. And the seventh day, Shabbos, Shabbos, and it should be a Shabbos of Shabboses. It's as if it's connected. Through the 6 days, the work being done, that's how the Shabbos will not just be a regular Shabbos, but it'll be a Shabbos Shabbos. What's the meaning? So the Shabbos should be appropriate. It's necessary first to have the 6 days of the week, but in what type of way? That the work during the 6 days of the week should be done as if in passing, with a tzedei under the top, then Shabbos will be an appropriate Shabbos. How is that so? So here is a precondition of how one has to experience Shabbos. It says, La'olam yira adam b'chol Shabbos ki'ilu kol malachti asuya. A person should always see and envision themselves every Shabbos. When the Shabbos comes, regardless if he's actually finished doing his work or not, when Shabbos comes, even if he's in the middle of a project, he's in the middle of something, he's in the middle of whatever it is, he drops everything and he goes to a certain place in his mind and his heart as if everything is done. But you're holding a middle, there's still a project, you're still going to have to finish it after Shabbos. In his mind, when Shabbos comes, everything is over. The question is, how does one experience Shabbos in such a type of way? How does one have this type of feeling that all of a sudden, Friday, at Lichtbenchen, boom, he's in a different place? Every good thing needs to have some type of basis and foundation which it grows out of. What's the roots for this? So he says in the last line in the first column, Im Adam Shakua B'chol Yemois Hashavua B'Yisukov. If a person is immersed in all the days of the week in his involvement, V'Torah B'Hamoi, top of the second column, and he's very preoccupied with them. When Shabbos arrives, and now he wants to uproot himself and leave the 6 days behind and become Shabbos-like. At least to leave his involvement in the business, involved in Torah and davening, to look at the glory of the king, the way the terminology of Chassidus is. It's like it gathers upon him. It like without his even wanting, even if he wants to leave those thoughts behind, all these foreign thoughts from the rest of the week pile up on him, and his mind keeps on spinning. Thoughts in which the person is immersed all the days of the week. Even more so, sometimes because the free time of Shabbos, thoughts will fall into his mind that he has no connection with those thoughts at all. It's not about the business that he was doing during the week. How come? There's an expression, the evil ones are burdening him. How is that happening? Once he opened himself up to like the external ones, the clippers and so on, how do you do it? It's known when there's an open doorway, so then things that are not supposed to be there try to break through. Therefore, he cannot truly fulfill the Shabbos because his mind is all cluttered with all type of weekday and mundane matters, and even things that he doesn't even do in the weekday because his mind has been open to everything during the week. How does one prepare themselves, or how does one act in the weekday, so that when Shabbos comes, it should be a truly Shabbos-dik Shabbos? When 6 days, the work will be done as if it's in passing. And the seventh day, it will be a Shabbos of Shabboses. Meiras Oyer HaShabbos. Then the light of Shabbos shines. V'af Yeser al Kein, and even more so. Shabbos Shabbosin Pamayim Shabbos. It's not just that the Shabbos shines, but it's a Shabbos of Shabboses, double Shabbos. How come? Mishum shemi shalididoi te'asa b'derech ha'meila hareu b'chol yemais ha'shavua b'chinas Shabbos. Someone that even during the week, the way he does work is without his brain and without his heart. It's completely in a way of, it's like happening by itself. He's divested from it. So then the truth is, he's already experiencing Shabbos during the 6 days of the week. Therefore, since he's experiencing Shabbos during the 6 days of the week, so what happens when Shabbos comes? So he's got a super Shabbos, a Shabbos times two. When Shabbos comes, so he gets an additional holiness, Shabbos Shabbos. Skip the parentheses. Skip all the way down to Hey. Second paragraph from the bottom. Now, earlier in the Sicha, he spoke about that when did Moshe Rabbeinu collect and gather the Yidden to tell them about the building of the Mishkan? The beginning of our parsha, Vayakhel Moshe, is called Bnei Yisrael, called Das Yisrael, that Moshe collected and gathered all the Yidden, took place the day after Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe says earlier in the Sicha, in the part we skipped, that means there must be some association between what Yom Kippur was about and what happens afterwards in the next few lines that Moshe Rabbeinu told them, not just the Mishkan. The simple explanation is it has to do with the Mishkan, because Hashem was not able to dwell amongst the Yidden the way he did before. So he said, Vasli Migdash Shkanti B'Soicham, I'll dwell in the Mishkan, and so on. But the Rebbe is saying that the connection between the day after Yom Kippur is not just what it's going to speak about the building of the Mishkan, but even earlier, where it speaks about Sheishes Yamim Te'asem Malacha, that is connected with after Yom Kippur. And how come? Because Yom Kippur is the tikkun, the repair, the kapara. The first Yom Kippur in history was a kapara on what happened 80 days earlier. 80 days beforehand was the Chet HaEgel. As we know, 40 days after Matan Torah, the Yidden did the Chet HaEgel. Then there was 40 days, Moshe Rabbeinu went up in Har Sinai, and then a third 40 days where he brought down the kapara on Yom Kippur. So 80 days earlier there was Chet HaEgel. Yom Kippur was the complete wiping of the slate of the sin of the golden calf. What we just now explained about 6 days work should be done without my investment has to do and reflect the antithesis of what the Egel was about. That's why it comes the day after Yom Kippur. Let's see it inside. According to this, we'll understand the connection between what Moshe Rabbeinu gathered the Yidden and said 6 days work should be done, Lebein Machras Yom Kippurim, which was the day on the morrow of Yom Kippur. Kan Seder Tikkun L'Chet HaEgel. Here is the order of the repair for the sin of the golden calf. Yachas L'Chet Avodah Zarah Omer Rambam, regards to the sin of Avodah Zarah, the Rambam says, Shadavar B'Matoich Kach. The Avodah Zarah results from the fact Hashpa Milmayla Iveres Derech HaGechavim Ma'amazolos. Since the way we get the influence in this world, literally, how do the crops grow? Because the sun, the moon, the stars, everything, all the physical things. Kakasa, like it says, that the sweetness of the crops come from the sun. Even though the original people that served the Avodah Zarah believed that the heavenly hosts are only intermediaries, they are not the originators of their energy. It all comes from Hashem. So they call Hashem the God of gods. So the sun, the moon, the stars are gods because they are the ones that actually give us the energy for our crops and so on. And Hashem is the God of gods. They give importance and value also to the intermediaries. That's what Avodah Zarah is about. Also, in truth, one is not allowed to serve the intermediaries, the sun, the moon, the stars, because the sun, the moon, the stars are only like the axe in the hand of the wood chopper. If a wood chopper comes and chops up some wood and brings it to your house, you're not going to go ahead and turn to the axe and thank the axe. Why? Because the axe had no say in the matter. The axe was completely a tool. You thank and you give appreciation to the wood chopper. The same thing, the sun, the moon, the stars are not independent. They are only like a tool of Hashem, and therefore there's no room to serve them. But the Ovdei Avodah Zarah made that mistake and they did serve them. Now, from a Chassidus level, whenever we give some type of value and importance to something other than Hashem, so it's called bedakus. In a subtle way, it's called Avodah Zarah. So when a person gives value and importance to his mind and heart, to his clever schemes in making a business deal, even though he believes that it's Hashem ultimately doing it, but he also thinks that it's the deal and the work that he's doing, so it's on a subtle level a type of Avodah Zarah. It's a type of idolatry. He says in the second paragraph, B'Toras Chassidus Musbar, in the teachings of Chassidus, it's explained, in a more subtle, in a more refined manner, the devotion and immersion and the effort and all types of schemes and plotting in business, they also are to be seen as a avodah zarah to a certain degree, as idolatry in a very subtle manner. Why? Why is it considered avodah zarah? Why is it called idolatry? Where does this come from that a person invests all this effort in the business? From giving importance to and much value to the business, to the intermediaries. Although this person believes in the fact that Hashem, your God, is the one that blesses you, despite that, he gives importance. He gives value only to the business. So therefore, he immerses himself with his mind. It's also likened to bowing down. What am I doing when I bow down? I take my head and I lower it. The movement of the head downwards. So, just like in idolatry, one takes their head and bends it downwards, the same thing, he is taking his head, his intellect, and investing it and moving it downward into the business. And the Rebbe says that in a certain way, taking one's intellect, which is inside the head, is even worse than actually moving the physical head. And even worse than it, when a person bends their head down, that's a physical thing. Here, he invests his spiritual head, he invests his intellect in the intermediary, because he gives importance and value to the intermediary, to the business, which is only a vessel for Hashem's bracha. By the way, the terms that he's using over here is business, but it's not just business. It's all things that I'm trying to do, whether health or anything else that I need to do to live in this physical world, and I give value to that more than necessary, so that's the same concept. Last paragraph on the first column. Kloimar, this means to say, Inyan zeshel sheishes yamim ta'ase b'taf psucha isuk poil. When it says six days, you shall do with a pasach under the taf, that you're engaged in the business in a very active way. Ba machshavas ha'esik, that comes from giving import and value to the business. When a person comes to a true recognition that really the business, the work that he's doing, and any other physical activity that he's doing is only like the axe in the hand of the wood chopper. So then he's not going to be immersed his head and the majority of his being in the business. Rather, he acts in the order of like it's happening, it's being done as if it's happening by itself. Top of the second column. In the light of the above will be understood another reason for the fact that the above mentioned way of doing it is as if it's happening on its own. Because in his mind it's a given, it's an accepted idea in his mind. It's not the business that's bringing him the parnasa. It's that the business is only an intermediary through which he has the parnasa from Hashem. So therefore, it's all as if by itself. It's not the business is doing. So now it's also understood the connection between Moshe gathering the Yidden and telling them that 6 days work shall be done, and the Mar of Yom Kippur. The order of repairing and uprooting the sin of Avodah Zarah is Sheishes Yom Te'asa Malacha Me'elav, when the 6 days a person does the work as if it's on their own. In other words, what is the total opposite of Avodah Zarah? It's not just stopping to bow down to idols. It means that any sort of even subtle idolatry I've uprooted from my life. Te'asa Malacha, when I'm doing work in a way of te'asa, that it's my whole mind and heart is uninterested in it. I'm only doing it because Hashem wants me to do the work. I don't give any value to the work and the physical activity whatsoever. That is the polar opposite of Avodah Zarah. When I do that, it means I have completely, or it's the means to completely eradicate any type of possibility for Avodah Zarah whatsoever.